Hi guys, today I'm going to be harvesting some watermelons, starting with this really pretty yellow fleshed moon and stars. There are a few different things that I look for when trying to figure out if a watermelon is ripe. The most reliable way to tell when a watermelon is ripe is to find the tendril that is closest to your watermelon fruit. This tendril should be completely dried out before you pick your watermelon. Once the tendril is dry, I recommend waiting about a week before you harvest it, just to be on the safe side. A dry tendril really is your best bet. 9 times out of 10, you're going to be harvesting a ripe watermelon when you rely on a dead tendril. This tendril has been dry for about a week, and we can take a few other things into consideration as well. The average days to maturity for this variety is 90 to 95 days. It has been that long since I put these plants out in the garden. I have a warm summer, but if you have a cooler summer, average days to maturity is something that you might want to ignore because it is going to take longer for your watermelon to reach maturity. Another thing to look at is if your watermelon is actively growing larger and you're seeing growth on a daily basis or every few days basis, it's not going to be ripe when you pick it. Your watermelon will reach its full size first and then it will start to ripen up. Although I do think that I've read somewhere that some of the giant varieties can be ripe and continue growing. I've never grown any of the true giants before, so I have no experience with that whatsoever. But your average garden variety, run-of-the-mill watermelons are going to reach their mature size before they ripen. Some of the oblong, older varieties will get a rough and bumpy rind once they are getting close to maturity, but that isn't always the case. Some varieties have a smooth rind from start to finish. But if you happen to see one that is forming lumpy bumps, your watermelon might be getting close to ripeness. I feel like I need to mention the spot on the bottom. All the time people are saying that the spot on the bottom will turn dark yellow when your watermelon is ripe, and that is not necessarily true. Many varieties have a light yellow or almost white spot. The only thing this spot on the bottom of the watermelon is telling me is that it has been sitting on the ground for a while. The tendril is key to picking a ripe watermelon. You can take my other tips into consideration, but be sure that the tendril is dead first. Think of the other tips as companion tips to the most important tip, which is a dry tendril. Here we have an orange tender sweet. I've never grown this one before, so I am really excited and I'm looking forward to trying this one. And the last one I'm going to be harvesting is this Charleston Gray. Right now we're going to be cutting open the orange tender sweet and the Charleston Gray. In a couple of days I'll cut open the yellow fleshed moon and stars and I'll put it on this video as well. I'm going to start with the orange tender sweet. These are both new varieties to me. I've never grown either of them before. So I'm really looking forward to trying both of them, and hopefully they're both ripe. Usually I do a pretty good job of picking a ripe watermelon, but we will see. The only way to know for sure is to cut it open. And I guess that looks pretty good. I thought it was going to be oranger than this. It's got a pretty decently sized thick rind here around the edge. I thought that this one would look a little bit more like an orange glow watermelon, but the flesh actually looks almost just like a yellow fleshed moon and stars watermelon, which is a little bit lighter of an orange shade than the orange glow watermelon. So let's cut it up and try it and see if it's ripe. It has a pretty thick white rind here. For a lot of varieties, this can be genetic. Or sometimes if you pick a watermelon too early, you'll see a lot of white. I think that this is just how this one looks. But we'll find out here in a second, and I will be completely honest with you guys. It smells really good. So I think it's ripe. The seeds look very ripe. I only see a couple of underdeveloped seeds here. The center is definitely ripe, but I'll eat all the way over here to the edge, and I'll be able to tell you for sure if I picked it too early or not. And it's definitely ripe. It's sweet all the way down to here. And not only does the inside here look almost just like yellow flesh moon and stars. You guys will see when I cut that one open. It tastes almost exactly like it too. Obviously it's a different watermelon, but it's got the same flavor. And I really like yellow flesh moon and stars. It's a good one. Now let's cut up the Charleston Gray. This is the only watermelon that grew on the Charleston Gray plant. That is definitely ripe. You guys see when I sliced it here, it's split open. So that's always a really good sign. This one didn't get as big as I hoped it would. It split again. But that's fine, honestly. I grow more watermelons than I can eat anyway. I mean, we eat them, but we get a little bit tired of them after a couple weeks. This one looks extremely good and probably perfectly ripe. Let's try this one. This watermelon looks very, very similar to Alibaba. I know it's a different variety though. It has a very similar rind. That one looks really, really good. It's a decent watermelon. I actually like the orange tender sweet a little bit better. Now we're going to cut open the yellow fleshed moon and stars watermelon. It's actually been about 10 days since I cut open those other two watermelons, and this one has just been sitting on my counter for the past 10 days. Hopefully I didn't leave it out on the counter for too long, and hopefully it's ripe and not rotten. If you pick a cantaloupe too early, you can leave it out on your oh, that busted right open. If you pick a cantaloupe too early, you can leave it out on your counter for a few days to ripen up. But watermelons do not get any riper once you pick them from the vine. Oh, it actually looks really good. Doesn't feel rotten. Cut a piece off and try it. I lucked out on this one and it's not rotten. It still tastes really good. The center here is just a little bit soft. It doesn't have that fermented flavor that watermelons sometimes get after they sit too long. This is a Congo watermelon. I didn't harvest this one on video for you guys. I just picked it a few days ago. It's the last watermelon of the year from my garden. It's kind of sad, really. Let's get it cut open. Oh, it's splitting a little bit too. Not as good as the yellow moon and stars did, but splitting open when you cut it is always a good sign that your watermelon's probably going to be ripe. And I think this is probably the biggest watermelon that I grew this year. I didn't weigh any of them this time around. And it looks really, really good. Look how red this flesh is. And this is a really good one. Congo was my favorite variety last year, and it's also my favorite variety this year. I'm not sure of the origin story on this variety or how old that it is, but I did read that Congo was a 1950 All-America selection winner. I had never heard of Congo or seen it in seed catalogs until the past few years or so, which really surprises me that this watermelon ever fell out of favor. It has a very crunchy red flesh and a really nice hard rind. I would imagine that this would be a good shipping watermelon or a good watermelon for farmers to take to farmers markets. Anyway, I'm glad that it's back and I'm going to grow it again next year. It's a really good one. I highly recommend it. That's all for this video. I hope that I was able to help you figure out when to pick a ripe watermelon. I know it can be a little bit tricky, but once you get the hang of it, it's pretty easy. If you're new to my channel, be sure to check out all of my other watermelon grown videos. I have a few different playlists on growing watermelons. You can see how I grew my watermelons this year by checking out the playlist titled Growing Watermelons 2019. I'll put a link to that up on the screen. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll talk to you next time. Bye.